Christmas, folks. I know
Oh,
it's early. It's not actually Christmas, but it's our last show pre-holidays, so we are festive. We're in the mood. Hopefully, going to give out some winners that aren't Iowa. Oops, whoopsie
Close.
daisies. But hey,
Competitive.
welcome to Best Bets on the Field of 68 Network. We are sponsored by BetRivers. We are the three-man weave. Kai, Matthew, happy holidays to you both. I've got my Christmas lights. You can't see them, but they're up. They're around. Kai, I'm going to go to you for a takeaway.
yes.
My takeaway is Iowa.
Okay.
Ho, 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 ha, ha, ha.
Yes, I figured yours was Iowa, Jim, so I'll let you talk about that and the historical nature of it. My takeaway is Florida A&M scored 1.15 points per possession against Kentucky. That's the 358th ranked offense, scoring that much against the 14th ranked defense. Matthew, I checked. Only Gonzaga has scored more efficiently against Kentucky this season, 1.16 points per possession. If that's not the biggest sleepwalk of the year besides Iowa, I'm not sure what is, Matthew.
Hey, those Rattlers can flat out score it, though.
They can score it, baby.
We know that to be an offensive juggernaut. Yeah, there's a lot of weird, sleepy, lackadaisical home favorites yesterday. I was locked in to a local tilt between the SIUE Cougars and the SLU Billikens, another one where the favorite completely took a nap. But that's my takeaway. Shouts to Brian Baroni and the squad. Cougarville, baby, getting a big win. That team's really good. Like for a brand new D1 program, well, somewhat new D1 program.
Now.
It's the best team they've ever had there, and they're on a full upward trajectory. And the poor Billikens, man, after all the lauded hype of an at-large berth dating back to the COVID year that was ruined, unfortunately, they just cannot, I don't know, bad luck, bad coaching execution, whisper. Just a lot of stuff I don't like about that team right now. So
Yeah, the people
moment.
I know associated with the program are not happy. Here's the full sweater, everybody. There it is.
Oh, that's a cool penguin, Jim. Wow.
Yeah, he's jamming out.
Rocking
Rock
penguin.
on, man. Christmas. Yeah. The Penguin is way cooler than Iowa was yesterday. I'll say that. First team ever to be favored by 30 or more and lose. Bigger spread than Duke hosting Stephen F. Austin. Bigger spread than Virginia losing to UMBC. They were, I believe, 30-point favorites were 588-0 before yesterday. And now they're 588-1. Eastern Illinois completely thrashed Iowa offensively. It doesn't make sense. Kind of like the Florida A&M one. It's hard to figure out this week. I tried to look for trends, Matthew, but home teams were 34-34 against the spread yesterday.
Yeah, they weren't.
So it's not just back road teams. Favorites were 35-33. So it's not just back dogs. There were just some odd efforts from really big favorites. Maybe if you were able to slice a little deeper on the data, the favorites of like 20 or more, maybe they sucked. That might be worth looking at. But whatever. Unfortunately, we can't go back and fix our Iowa mistakes. We have to look forward. And Kai, that means turning our eyes towards where you are in St. Louis. It's bragging rights day, baby. Bragging rights. Mizzou, Illinois. Illinois has been bet up a little bit from 5.5 to 6.5. Probably makes sense given Mizzou's performance against Kansas. Total is about 5 points below where KenPom has it. That surprises me. I don't know if someone has intel that Mizzou's going to play more zone or they're going to slow it down against elite competition. But Kai, I would certainly lean towards the over. Have to lean towards Illinois, sadly. What do you think of our Tigers here today?
Yeah, I'm shocked by the move on the total. I thought it'd be bet up. I took the over. I think it's a good bet. So Mizzou lost to Kansas and Illinois last year by an average of 31 points. They lost to Kansas by 28 already this year. Let's hope this game's a little bit more competitive. I think there's going to be a lot of points here. Both teams are going to run, look to score in transition. Can Mizzou force turnovers, Matthew? That's the question. They have to if they want to win. Always need to shoot it well because they're not stopping Illinois on defense. Illinois will get whatever they want inside, off the glass, on the run. This is usually a pretty good game. Jim mentioned ATS stats on a few shows ago on a different program, but it's usually pretty close, even when Mizzou or Illinois is down. So both teams pretty good this year. I'm hoping for a good one. I'm taking the over here and rooting for the Tigers.
I kind of think the under angle is interesting. Like, I know it's shaded down from KenPom. I think that's smart because the scores that Mizzou put up in the non-conference were just so, astronomically inflated. And so maybe there's some rationale behind that from the odds makers. But just look at the fact that Mizzou's porous defense was exposed so terribly by KU in like an up and down type of game. I wonder if Gates is trying to be a little more shell-like in his defense. Like UCF, I know UCF controlled that pace, but I think Mizzou was more willing to play a little like in a more of a half-court execution game. Like I think there's definitely like this ripple effect from, wow, that Kansas thing was a disaster. We need to kind of change how we're doing things. Wonder if you see a carryover of that, which is probably smart against Illinois, who I think can absolutely roast Mizzou if this game gets into an up and down affair like the Kansas one. Just more depth, in my opinion, more talent, more length, ability to score in transition. I think they're better as good as Mizzou is. I think Illinois is actually better in that department. A lot points to Illinois, but you're right. It's a rivalry game. I think if Mizzou gets down 10, 15, there won't be the same, I wouldn't say quit that we saw against Kansas, Jim, but I think there's a ability to push back and make this competitive.
It wasn't quit. It was just being worse.
Just not good enough to come back. Yeah.
Being worse.
Not playing Isaiah Mosley, arguably the most talented player in your roster. He got buried against UCF as well. I think that needs to factor into your handicap. Whatever you've rated Mizzou, you got to knock it because clearly that guy doesn't matter. He's not somebody that's part of Dennis Gates' current plans. I don't know about long term. But yeah, I still like the over. I don't think Mizzou has learned any great lesson. They played a UCF team that forces you to execute in the half court. Mizzou did play a little more zone because UCF can't shoot really. They're not a great shooting team. And Illinois can shoot if Mizzou tries to zone. I think talking team total in the chat, Kai, I would have to agree with Illinois team total over. I don't know how Mizzou stops them.
No, they won't. Also, this game's in St. Louis. Seeing a couple things in the chat. Neutral site, St. Louis. It's about halfway between both schools. So it's usually pretty even on fan base.
Yeah, relatively split. Kai, you talked about the weather. Maybe it's going to affect
weather's
attendance.
Terrible.
We'll see. Yeah, it could be bad. But I still lean towards over, lean towards Illinois, like that Illinois team total over. All right, next up, we'll head down to Nebraska area, going to Omaha. Matthew, Creighton, looking to get off the schneid, lost 6 in a row here, hosting Butler, a team we've been high on all season. But Ryan Kalkbrenner is back, and they are 25 points better per 100 possessions when he plays. Do you think we get a full Kalkbrenner, or is it kind of this hampered, still sick version?
A blend, I guess. It's definitely not going to be 100% Kalk, but I think it's obviously a boost over what they've had, which is nothing. As good as the young King kids played, Kalk's a different beast, clearly. Now, it's a tough spot, though, for Creighton because it's one where you think they just completely unleash this sort of, all right, we've lost 6 in a row. We're angry. We're tired of this nonsense. We got our beast inside back. We're going to blow you away. But Butler just got 2 of their studs back, too, right? I mean, Ali came off the bench, played 11 minutes. He's on a pitch count, clearly. Jalen Thomas is basically a nothing, but he can give you 5 minutes a game. And that little stuff matters for a team that's dead last in the country in bench minutes. And, they actually competed with UConn, I thought, fairly admirably for most of that game, which it's really a testament given how awesome UConn's been. Jim disagrees. Okay. I thought it was pretty competitive for 32 minutes there. Also, take a quick look at how teams have fared after playing UConn recently. A lot of good efforts. It's kind of like you play the 96 Bulls and you go and play a JV team after. It's like, wow, this feels a lot easier to score and defend. I think that the effect works in Butler's favor tonight. 8's too many. I like the Bulldogs, Kai.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Creighton losing 7 straight, especially at home. If they're going to have a best effort,
they want a tight one.
If they're going to have the best effort of their season, it's tonight. They have to be completely motivated. I think Kalkbrenner is going to be pretty close to 100%. I know he was sick playing before, and he was doing just fine. I mean, he looked very sick in those Maui games. 0-1 in the Big East also, a little added motivation. They have this game, and they have DePaul on Christmas before they kind of go on a little bit of a break. I guarantee you McDermott is telling them the situation here and wants to go in 2-1. I do think it's a get-right game. It opened a little bit low. It opened around 6. I did kind of want to back Butler here because I'm still higher than I think several people are out there, but the odds makers clearly have a higher opinion of them than KenPom, which is correct. But now back to 8, Jim. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about it. The Bates versus Kalkbrenner matchup is going to be great. Guard group pretty even, slight edge to Creighton. I don't know. I think the spot sets up better for Creighton, so I'm staying away.
That's what's keeping me off Butler as well. I think Creighton is real. I mean, I will not bet Creighton on Christmas. That's for sure. Or, excuse me, I will not bet DePaul. I think Creighton spanks DePaul on Christmas. For a little look ahead for the chat mobbers that are here. But today, I think this number's about right with Kalkbrenner in there, assuming 100%. That's probably not a safe assumption coming back from that illness. So I would still lean towards Butler, but I bet against Creighton a couple times here and I've won. I don't feel as good about it here, and I don't feel as good about Butler, a team I've been on. So that makes me stay away. Like I should be on Butler, given how I've been with these two teams, and I'm just going to sit this one out. All right, let's go west to Santa Clara, where they're hosting Boise State. Kai, more injury issues here for Boise State. Marcus Shaver called a game time decision today. Just a fun little thing from Leon Rice, the coach of Boise State. He said it's almost the end of no shave December because he's hoping Marcus Shaver is back for this one. I enjoyed that. How big of a factor is that for you on the handicap? And do you have a take on the side if he's in or out?
Yeah, I think Shaver's clearly important, but they've been pretty good without him too. 8 straight wins for this team, 7-1 against the spread in that time. Leon Rice continues to be one of the most underrated coaches in the country. This program is always good and tends to outperform their talent. And their defense is legit this year, 12th in the country right now. Now, Santa Clara has been pretty solid too this year, Matt. This is their 7th straight home game. They've gotten fat and happy in the lovely town in California. The line's gotten a little bit too short for me. I was leaning towards Santa Clara here in this spot, but man, 2 points. I wouldn't be opposed to taking Boise here. 2 really big teams. Maybe Santa Clara can stand up to Boise. They do have some offensive pop, the perimeter especially. And we know Boise's 3-point percentage defense is unsustainable. Last 2 years, they've ranked 120th and 134th in 3-point percentage allowed. This year, they're 5th. It's going to come back down to earth eventually. Will it be tonight? We'll see.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was leaning Santa Clara too. The problem is it's not a true road game, right? Isn't this game in a neutral venue? It's not actually in Santa Clara's gym. That kind of bothers me.
I think it's Santa Clara. Yep.
Okay, so the Santa Cruz games are Stanford Loyola. Okay, just clarifying. Yep. Thank you, Jimbo. Regardless, I guess, well, that's another point in my favor. I like Santa Clara more. I just not betting it because I want to see if Shaver's in there. Obviously, super important. Just look at Boise's last few games. Oakland, team that's completely in disarray. Great, you beat them by 20. New Orleans at home, whatever, throwaway game. SLU, we just talked about how they're kind of broken. A&M's bad. Northridge, okay, you beat them by 9 and you needed a late put. This Boise team's a little bit
that whole way.
Yeah. Right. I think this Boise team
covered all those games.
They covered at SLU. I agree, but
7-1 against the spread last 8 games.
I agree with that, but do you think SLU is a good team right now? Do you think A&M's a good team right now? Do you think Oakland, NOLA? I mean,
theoretically, the spread should even it out, right?
I agree, but Kyle, we're better than the market, are we not? We're sharper than the market. That's what I'm giving us some credit here, some credence. We're getting ahead of the curve, and I think the Santa Clara team's the right side tonight. So
I agree. I'm liking Santa Clara as well. My worry is that Leon Rice is a very good game planner, and Santa Clara is very heavy on Pajimski. And if they're able to take him away, that is going to really derail a lot of what Santa Clara wants to do on offense. But I like them as the home dog here. I think Shaver is like Kalkbrenner, where if he's in, I don't think he's 100%. He was not 100% against SLU, and that's why they held him out the next game. So I think that matters. If he's out, then I definitely like Santa Clara. And even if he's in, I hope we get a somewhat limited version of him, because then I would really hope the Broncos are capable of covering there. All right, let's move to the last one on the outline before Chat Mob. Matthew, you got ahead of yourself talking Santa Cruz here. That's where this one is. Loyola, Chicago, and Stanford. Loyola seems to have maybe figured some things out. They're still turning the ball over at a crazy rate every game. Mm-hmm. Like box score, their turnover percentage is bad, but they're playing better defense. They're at least getting better shots. Do you think they compete in a semi-road game here with the Cardinal?
Yeah, I think they win. This is my best bet. I was tempted to do a little Matty Moneyline sprinkle a pony show for you, Sully here, but I decided to stay away. I just think that their late game execution, Jim, is not all the way there, as you mentioned, because their ball security is not ideal. But this line's just way too high. I think this should be close to a pick 'em. Just look at how Loyola's played with both Marquise Kennedy and the new and improved Braden Norris, not the disastrous one we saw the first, 7 games of the year.
He got over his breakup or something.
Weird. I also think Valentine's finally realized that for some reason, guys like Bryce Golden, Butler transfer, a non-factor, and then Sheldon Edwards, who's been hurt, was supposed to be a big factor. It's taken him time, I think, to kind of phase those guys out and then lean on his core rotation of, Philip Alston and then the freshman Schweiger, who's been really good at spots. I kind of like that this team kind of knows who they are right now. It's a much thinner rotation than I was hoping for from this Blur team this season. But I think the version that we see now has been a lot better and should not be catching 6 points to Stanford in a semi-road game. I just don't think that's
bet, Matthew.
Best bet. The bestest of bets. Yeah.
You guys mentioned Santa Cruz, home of the Banana Slugs. Maybe slight credit to Stanford travel. but not worried about the fans here. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be like
they don't even go to the home games at Mays.
Yeah.
They're not going to Santa
No
Cruz.
Right.
Like 2 people there.
Maybe
the trio will be there.
I agree. Loyola seems to be a little bit back on track. In the last 3 games, they've won 3 in a row. They all by double digits. One of them was an impressive game against Clemson. They had high expectations this year, but like the rest of the A-10, they've just been poor. The ball handling Jim mentioned has been the key. Norris and Kennedy have been kind of shaky with it. I mean, Norris, I thought he was back. 6 turnovers against Albany last game. It's not really a great situation. Stanford is apparently unlucky for Kempom, but boy, Valentine is a much better coach in my eyes than Haas. Not really worried about that. Talent a little bit on Stanford's side. Size certainly is. But I think the physicality can be matched here by Loyola. I do lean towards them at +6.
Yeah, Stanford really struggles against good teams under Haas, like year after year. I don't know if Loyola is good. That's the question right now. That Clemson effort looks amazing. They blew them out, but the 3-point shooting was like Loyola shot 15 or 50% and Clemson shot 14%. Like it was a complete chasm of shooting that maybe tilted that outcome a little bit. That said, I agree with these guys. I prefer Loyola here. I think this should be closer to a pick 'em with the way Loyola is trending. Stanford, I'm just not impressed with Haas and Harrison Ingram. They have not really capitalized on their potential this year. So I'm with these guys. I like the dog. All right, chat mob. Kai, I believe you are my czar.
Let's do it, guys. Lots of questions here. We're starting with Harry. He asks about Southern Miss going to Jim's former school, UNLV. Spread is 8.5, Jim. Who do you like?
I made the spread about what it is, even without Elijah Parquet in the lineup for UNLV, but I would lean towards Southern Miss. They've just been so good this year. Like basically every single game, they've got shooting, they've got size, versatility. Austin Crowley, the Ole Miss transfer, has been like all world. And UNLV, without Parquet and really an offense that I trust, it's tough to cover big-ish numbers. So lean towards the Golden Eagles.
Matthew, you get Queens going to Fairleigh Dickinson. Money for Queens -6.5 currently.
It makes sense to me. I know there's injury question marks on both sides here. I don't have the specifics there. I watched Queens a little bit against East Tennessee State. Just a good team. I think you guys had a good beat on them. The East Tennessee State was making shot after shot, and they just took blow after blow and responded even without. Who's their big guy inside they were missing?
Gavin Rains.
Yeah, Gavin Rains. Thank you.
He's back.
He's back now. So yeah, I would lean Queens.
Oh, I was on ETSU that game, but I have since backed Queens twice in a row, and they've covered both. So appreciate that.
Yeah,
Queens,
Nebraska,
not a quitting squad. Down 20 at Nebraska, no. They came all the way back.
Feisty. Jim, Kent State, UTEP, Kent State -7. They played here yesterday.
Yeah, so very little home for UTEP. Mario McKinney got hurt yesterday for UTEP. I don't think that matters because they were up 2 when it happened, and they won by 13. I think they're arguably better when he's not on the floor. Joe Golding apparently disagrees. He's been starting him, so maybe I'm wrong, but I like UTEP. I think it's a little too many points. Still high on the minors, Maddie. Get your mining out. There you go.
Why am I not on them today? I'm just confused. I
because
guess I finally gave
because you don't want to fade Kent State. Right. Yeah,
that's
like
right. Checks the notes. Kent State is on the opposite side.
I took it smaller because I fear Kent State, but I do make this lower, and I like UTEP.
Yeah, generally, home court kind of goes out the window. The second day playing in the same gym, so that's probably not baked into the line. So if anything, Kent State should have a bit of an edge there. Matt, San Diego, your favorite team, is playing Cal State Northridge, your actual favorite team, -4 San Diego. What do you think?
I think the line's actually about right. The key thing here is Jaden Dallaire, former Stanford transfer, like all Pac-12 conference caliber dude, is supposed to try and play tonight. I don't know if they're going to have Jace Townsend, their other guard, back. Just so annoying because even without those guys, they should be much better than they played. Now, they've been a little bit whack-a-mole. We've seen some highs from this team, but I don't know if tonight's the spot where you want to trust them against Northridge, who will kind of bring you down in the mud. We talked about how Trent Johnson runs like a 1995 offense, basically. But so it could be kind of a tough matchup for the Toreros.
Jim, you get Lindenwood, a local St. Louis team, traveling to Utah Tech. Spread is well off the board at BetRivers, I suppose, but 14-ish.
Yeah, my number leans toward Lindenwood. I'm a little nervous about backing them going west for this random one-off game. We talked about how those make us nervous from a situation.
Wait, real quick. They just came from BYU, right? They just play BYU, so it's not like terrible travel.
So, yeah, I guess.
Good point.
Yeah, I still think there's some let's get home for the holidays type of notion. If you're not playing like a top 10 team where you want to give a home run effort and do what EIU did yesterday. But I didn't back it because I don't really trust Lindenwood. I don't think I have a good rating on Utah Tech, full disclosure. I have not really been on good sides of their games, haven't bet many of them. So I sat it out, Kai.
Portland State and Cal Baptist. I took Portland State today. It's down to 7, though. Can't really recommend. They're a feisty bunch, man. Talk about a team that doesn't quit. Portland State, though Cal Bap has been a lot better recently than I expected. Tough game. 7, probably stay away.
Kind of like the over, too. I think there's points there.
J-Man, I believe. I write down the names and I don't say them, then I can't read my writing. But Matt,
he asks so it sounds like doing it in Word isn't the worst thing in the world.
Computer crashes, though. Tough.
That's true.
Paper pen type of guy.
Yep.
Matt, you get Little Rock. They are going to Arkansas State plus 5.5. Former conference rivals last year.
Right. Yeah. Almost back Little Rock. And then I just kind of remembered every time I've thought to myself, I'm excited to back Little Rock today. And then that, went terribly. So I just didn't back them for that stupid reason, honestly. And I watch UCA play. I don't think they're awful. They got 2 decent bigs. Churchill Downs, baby. Best name in college hoops. I mean, who doesn't want to back him?
Churchill Bounds.
All right. Last one before going back to the rundown here, Jim. Ryan A. Charlotte, UAB, 11-point spread. Thoughts?
I lean towards UAB. I think they're better against kind of their caliber. Like they have struggled when they play power conference competition because they can match their athleticism. UAB is basically a power conference team. I looked at tempo trends in this matchup because it is such a tug of war, like super fast or super slow, and it's been like right in the middle. It's hard to figure.
Perfect.
So I have no take on total, but I think UAB gets away from them. I have a memory, Kai, of backing Charlotte against UAB like 2 years ago, and they got down like 22-1 or something.
That sounds right, Jim. Yes. Yes. All right, back to the rundown. I got more questions holstered for later.
Beautiful. Okay. I just want to clarify something from the chat. When I asked for order yesterday, I just meant like team 1 first, team 2 second. I don't mean give the rotation number from the actual betting board. That is just a point of clarification there.
Yes.
Portland at UC Riverside. I saw that I think Portland was Pat Taylor's best bet in the chat. I know the chat is basically 100% this year. Those guys are better than us. I tip my cap to you.
100%. Yes, I agree.
They're good. They're very good. But Matt, I'll go to you first here. Riverside's a team I've been backing with some frustration this year. Portland has some kind of banged up injury issues. Meadows has been out. Moses Wood was back in, but we'll see if he's still banged up. What do you think of this one? Very short spread.
Yeah, I lean to Portland. It's been bet up to -2, so the market is looking at backing Portland, a team we love. But again, last 3 games, North Dakota State losing at home was the biggest head scratcher. They played New Orleans. I'll make fun of them again as I did with Boise. Knew that's a bad basketball team. Put no stock in any results involving them.
This is terrible.
And Purdue can get away.
Well, Zach Edey might help. But Oregon, that was kind of. I thought Oregon would be a team that Portland could compete with. We've seen them go toe to toe with like big boys, all PK 85. Kai, you were there up front for most of those.
They did compete with them, I think. Didn't they play them? Am I wrong?
No, they played Oregon
North
later.
Carolina, Nova, Michigan State.
Wrong team. Yes,
Oregon was their most recent. And we've seen Oregon kind of play with their food against these mid-major teams. I thought Portland would kind of sneak up on them. They didn't. All that made me think that this Portland team's running out of gas before conference play. So I stayed away.
Yeah, I'm still a huge believer in them. They rock. But I've also been on Riverside a lot this season.
Yeah, I like River.
Riverside's off a tough overtime loss to San Diego. It's a tough 2-day turnaround, especially against an offense like Portland's that's very tough to prepare for. So I think the Pilots actually have some value here at -2. They're going to get to the line early and often. They're going to slice up Riverside a bit, I think. I lean towards Portland.
The Pilots.
All right, next up.
The ship kind.
Yeah. They drive
Ocean Pilots.
Ocean Pilots
last year,
right. So I appreciate the intel tip there. Western Kentucky at South Carolina. Kai, we had an internal discussion yesterday about Rick Stansbury as a favorite, whether this counted if it's a really short spread. So I looked up the data. At Western Kentucky, he's 49-62 as a favorite in general. So not good. When it's closer to a pick'em, so less than 5, he's only 18-19. So like more of a coin flip. So you actually have a chance. That said, I like Western Kentucky here. I think South Carolina is bad. Do you agree?
I'd usually take Western Kentucky here, but I'm still angry about the Louisville effort. This is a terrible favorite, Jim, as you mentioned, especially on the road. On the road this season, they beat Eastern Kentucky by 6. They beat Austin Peay by 1, and they got smoked by Louisville. So not a good track record. And Matt, South Carolina, while awful, they've been respectable at home this season. If you look at their results, they beat Clemson at home. They've taken care of the teams they should have at home. I want no part of it. I think the Gamecocks actually come to play. I lean towards their way at +3. Just a gut
I do
thing.
too. Yeah, I do too. I know I have South Carolina rated higher than both of you, and it's for no good reason. The East Carolina game was never close. East Carolina dominated wire to wire. I thought they'd be a lot more competitive there, especially with Michi Johnson back, who's been a key addition for them, the former Ohio State transfer. It's a roster that just really isn't very deep, nor is it very talented. People look at the G.G. Jackson thing and get really like, ooh, there's the stud 5-star recruit at South Carolina. They're going to be, it's like, he's good. He's getting a lot better, but he needs help. And the team's young, first-year head coach. So all that is to say, I don't trust them in this spot, although I would lean their way. I think the price is a little bit high. I mean, Western Kentucky lost to Louisville, guys. Like, forget that.
Oh, they haven't played
very
well at all this year. Yeah.
I don't understand that. Like, that should have been, this is our year to beat Louisville. They're bad, and they played with their food. I mean, Louisville shot 50% from 3. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe I should give WKU a little bit of a break. But when that lined up with they're always bad as a favorite, then I'm not going to give them too much of a break. So again, definitely lean towards the Hilltoppers here because I just don't give South Carolina credit, but not strong enough to bet them because I don't trust that team. All right, next on the outline, Cornell at Colgate. Big time mid-major battle here, Matt. Two teams we really like. Cornell has been fantastic in the non-con this year. Colgate, more figuring it out. They're the second team in college hoops with a freshman point guard named Braden Smith that is leading them. How do you feel about the Raiders here taking on Cornell?
The spread felt a little short, but I don't know. Cornell's just always good, man. Like, I try and have them rated high enough, and then I just never can. I did fade them successfully at Syracuse, so I guess pat on the back for me. Makes me feel somewhat better about my number having Colgate higher, but it's tough to say. Points galore, right? Like, isn't it just the most obvious?
It's the obvious, yeah.
Over.
Right.
It's the most square, but I think the most correct angle there is here.
Yeah, efficiency should be crazy.
I wanted to be on Cornell, but I agreed open too low. KenPom's got it 6. It's at 4.5 right now. Staying away on the side. Big Red can catch fire for sure. Really good offensive team. Brian Earl, brilliant coach. Colgate's also terrific on offense. They should have no trouble scoring. I agree. The over is the obvious play. That's why it's 158.5 right now. BetRivers, sky high. It's going to be a shootout though, Jim, I think. I think Cornell can keep it close. I would lean their way, but 4.5 does feel short.
Yeah, and like, again, I said it's going to be super efficient, but I also think it'll play faster than the 72 possessions KenPom has it at. Like, Cornell just kind of induces people to play that way, and I think Colgate can be a pace taker. They played 85 possessions against Buffalo, 73 against Duquesne. Like, they'll play fast if it's out there for them, and Cornell's going to certainly give that to them. So I would lean towards over. I think the spread is about right. No take on the side. Last one on the outline here. Go to a rock fight, fellas. Go from a total of 160 down to one in the low 120s. Akron at Bradley. Matthew, you've been a big Braves guy all season. Now that they are fully healthy, it's a team I'm looking to back. But unfortunately, I think I'm too high on Akron maybe in my ratings because I aligned with what the spread was here. Are you able to get on the Braves here?
No, I passed on it, and I don't really have a good reason. Honestly, I made it a little bit higher. I think Bradley's awesome. Obviously, they're fully healthy now, which we haven't potentially seen the best version of this team. And I'm not really a big Akron guy. Xavier Castaneda is just a dude I don't really trust and don't really understand why I never liked him. I know. I thought he's bad. South Florida.
Pretty well.
He's been good. I've been wrong. It's just been a bad take by me.
Xavier
honestly.
have to fade him.
I love it, baby.
Does that work?
I think just because of the weird weird non-conference results so far we've seen in this part of the schedule made me stay away from Bradley. Like, conference play heats up right on the corner. I just I don't need to get involved here. Very cautious betting slate for me today, Kai.
It's a sneaky good game. I think Akron's back on track after a tough stretch. They've won their last 3 games pretty easily. Schedule question, sure, but still impressive. Take care of business. But Bradley's good. They're well coached, tough defensively. This game's going to be extremely physical, low scoring, defensive battle. Freeman versus Mast, a very good matchup on both ends. Probably not a lot of scoring. Bradley also a sneaky home court. Jim, the Missouri Valley schools always seem to have trouble playing here. The line felt about right to me. And generally, when I think of two pretty closely matched teams, I lean towards the dog. But again, I respect Bradley's home court, so I stayed away.
Yeah, dog, and especially in a low total game too. I know that's usually kind of part of it for you. Like, it's hard for Bradley to get away. This number has been bet up a little bit, the total, up from 122 to 123.5. So people are thinking maybe they're going to grind out some points here. Maybe there's some Akron travel issues. It's not quite that bad out yet here in Illinois, but it's going to get that way. So maybe they want to just get in, get out, and get home before the storm buries them in Peoria. Like I said, I didn't end up with a take or a play on this game, no real strong lean. So I figured let's just get to Chat Mob, Kai. I'll dish it over to you. I know there's a lot of questions still to hit.
Sure are. Graham asks about Wright State, Miami of Ohio, Matt, specifically the over in this game.
Yeah. I think you had better take care of you've seen the Miami defense up close and personal. I think we've all seen the Wright State defense, which isn't a lot stingier either. Yeah, the over makes a ton of sense. So yes, I concur. Good bet.
Jim, Matt in the chat asks about Stephen F. Austin and Jackson State. Jackson State a little feisty sometimes.
Yeah, I like the under again here. Both teams are shorthanded, early-ish tip. Again, like I said it with Jackson State against Alabama, the end of a schedule gauntlet where it's like, God, we just got to get this game done, and then we're going to have the break and start conference play. I feel like this one slows down some, given the personnel limitations. I like the under, no real take on side.
A two from Daryl, number one, I'll take. North Florida, Bethune-Cookman. I'm on North Florida. North Florida kills teams that they are better than. They get smoked by power conference teams. They're going to be excited to play this game. They've had a brutal schedule, as usual, North Florida. And then, Matthew, you get UNC Greensboro and Eastern Kentucky.
No strong take. I kind of like Greensboro here. It's been bet up to -3. I don't know. I stayed away. I don't really have a good pulse on EKU, Jim.
I don't really either. I don't think they're that good. They're really young, so they're still kind of figuring things out. I would lean towards Greensboro. I did also take the over. I think Greensboro will run with them a little bit, but nothing like strong. No best bets or hammers for me here.
How about Weber State, Jim, going to BYU +13? I got to admit, my number said BYU, and I said, you know what? Weber State figured something out. I'm staying away.
Yeah, it seems like they figured something out. They've got Keith Dinwiddie out of the lineup, who is like monstrously inefficient, and they've started to play a lot better. I don't know how many, whether they can put another like great effort out there after they had a big in-state win against Utah State. Can they do that again against BYU? I also think BYU's figured it out a little bit. They've started to play a lot better with, what's his name? Rudy Williams coming off the bench. It seems like that's kind of solved some of their scoring issues. But yeah, Kai, I think with both teams trending up, I'm not willing to fade either one of them.
Matt, how about Maryland and St. Peter's? Do the Terps keep it going here? 23-point spread. Ooh.
Yeah, that actually isn't big enough. I like the Terps at 23. I think they've kind of gone through their lull after the awesome start, a little bit of a reset. I think they come out focused, energized, and efficient against a bad, discombobulated St. Peter's team that's had a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup. They have no semblance of continuity in that backcourt right now. A terrible place to be when you're playing Maryland.
Jim, Matthew in the chat asks about Texas Southern and Wichita State. 12-point spread at the Roundhouse.
And I didn't have a real great sense of this one. The SWAC teams that have played gauntlets lately have been kind of getting smoked, like your Alcorns, your Prairie Views.
Jackson State, like, Texas Tech. Oh, God. Yeah.
Seems like they've sort of run out of gas a little bit, perhaps. We'll see if that's the case with Texas Southern, but that's the one angle that is on my mind with that.
Harvard, Kansas. Surprised one didn't make the rundown, but it's a 21-point spread. A tweet from John Findler, I believe it was, pointed out that Tommy Amaker is quite good as a dog outside of the Eastern time zone, which pretty much negates any angle of crazy travel. But trends don't mean everything. They're often kind of coincidental. Matt, do you think Harvard can keep it close at Kansas?
I don't, but then I looked at that data. He's just been awesome as a road dog in general. I did not know that as well. Maybe there's something to that. Like, he has talent. As an unsuspecting dog, he probably plays better. As a favorite, he probably plays worse. It's kind of like a Rick Stansbury sort of dynamic, perhaps. Yeah. Obviously, the data is like really heavily tilted in their favor, but KU, after going from Harvard to Irvine to the Midwest, final game for Christmas, good luck to you.
Central Connecticut State's one of my least favorite teams, Jim. They're +11 at St. Joe's. Got anything?
These are two of my least favorite teams here.
Yeah, I hate St. Joe's too.
St. Joe's has been without Christian Winborn, but he was terrible, at least from an efficiency perspective. So I don't think he matters that much. I can't figure out CCSU. Like they will lay a total egg or they'll compete for 40 minutes. Like it's one or the other.
All right, let's go around the horn for some Hawaii games real quick. Matt, you get Seattle and Utah State.
Felt high, didn't it? I know Utah State was awesome to start.
Yeah.
10. Oh, yeah, bet down a little bit. So market's coming on Seattle. Felt high. I know Utah State's awesome. I think they've been really, really awesome at home. Their home court advantage might be slightly inflating their general price right now in the market.
I took a little 10. I agree.
Good for you.
I got Hawaii Pepperdine. I'm leaning towards Hawaii here, -4.5. Spread's about right, but maybe Hawaii gets a fresh pop in for the first game here at home. True home court advantage the first game.
Go Bows.
And then Jim, you get Iona and SMU. The spread is also close to 10, I believe.
Yeah, been bet up a tad. I think we see a fairly locked in Iona team after the loss at the Pit, or maybe there's an emotional letdown, but I tend to think Pitino will have them very engaged. And I think SMU is real bad. They're not going to score much against this Iona defense. Iona could maybe name their number. I would lean towards the Gales there. I think they're just a categorically better team.
All right. I think we've hit about every question here. Should we do best bets?
Let's do it. Matthew, lead us off.
Already spoiled mine, which I hate doing. Actually, no, sorry, I love doing that.
You love it.
I love that. I like doing it as the chat mob czar, specifically in that spot. The Blurs, Loyola, Chicago's Missouri Valley team. Drew Valentine, the boys get it done there. I think they went outright at Stanford.
At Santa Cruz.
In Santa Cruz. Sorry. Yes, in Santa Cruz. In the NorCal Bay Area proper, I think they get a victory.
Yeah. I will take Yale. Yale -13.5 is my best bet. I think they should murder Monmouth with or without Matt Knowling, who has missed the last 2 games. I'm hoping he's in. It's been like a 10-day break. Hopefully he's recovered. Hard to find information on the guy anywhere. Yale, so well coached, so fundamental, terrific defensive team. I think they get basically whatever they want and shut Monmouth down. So -13.5, my best bet, Jim.
Love it, Kai. Love Mr. James Jones. Backing him never seems like a bad idea. I'm going to the Island, the 4th game that we did not discuss. George Washington, Wazoo, taking under. I think Wazoo is going to be very content to play super slow. They always are. Offense, very, very slow paced. And GW has almost no depth. So with the idea of 3 games in front of them where they have to play 3 in 4 days, I think they'll be fairly content to play slow as well. Worried a little bit about efficiency with Jabe Mullins back for Wazoo. He's a 50% 3-point shooter. George Washington doesn't really guard anybody. But I think tempo is enough here to keep this one a slog, and both teams maybe struggle a little bit to score at the rim in this one. So under 136.5, that is my best bet. All right, fellas, I believe that's it. I believe it's holiday break for the chat and for the weave. How about that? Kai, beautiful. You look great with that hat. Matt's excited. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. Wow. Thank you for all of the lovely pre-Christmas fun. We'll see you after, I believe, the 28th. This is the first time we are back because that's the first time there's more than like 5 games on the slate. So we'll see you on the 28th. Happy holidays. Enjoy the time. Good luck on your bets. Go Packers. Go Bucks. Happy Christmas. Happy holidays.